Hey Noah, you know what Joe Flacco should have done?
What's that, Eric?
Maybe he should have had his own little ayahuasca retreat. I have no idea what ayahuasca is, but it's Brown Steelers week, and I had to make the joke since we're facing off against one Aaron Rodgers, one of the old men that actually looks decent. Listen, we have so much to talk about, though. We have trades that have happened. We have a QB2/3 situation going on,
Yeah.
and then we have a preview of it's rivalry week, baby. It's Browns Steelers, Browns at Steelers. As much as I am so over this team, I'm also so excited to see what happens.
Yeah, we will be watching the game together at an undisclosed location, not as a pregame show, but we're just hanging out as two buddies for once. So I'm excited to do that. But let's get in. Do you want to start with the trades?
Yeah, let's do that because big news coming out of Berea this week. Not one, but two trades. The first one may be surprising only in who the partner was with, and then the second one completely taking us by surprise. But yeah, Joe Flacco is now a Cincinnati Bengal. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think Zach Taylor's seat is super hot. I've kind of alluded to this already this week on the show. You don't make a trade in division for a aging quarterback that you think might have some juice, even though he hasn't shown any juice this season, unless your seat is hot. And rightfully so. It's a mess down there right now, aside from the fact that they have great talent on the offense. And I
Well,
honestly hope Joe Flacco does awesome down there so they squeak into the playoffs. Zach Taylor keeps his job and they continue to be mid for years on years to come.
I like that. There's one problem. If Joe Flacco looked like a statue for the Browns, I'm not sure how he's going to deal with arguably a worse offensive line with the Cincinnati Bengals. Keep in mind that's a line that has gotten Joe Burrow hurt not once, several times.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a sieve, they're an open sieve, so I'm not sure how that experiment's going to go. I also don't really know why they would trade for him in particular when there were other options out there.
Yeah, I know a lot of Bengals fans because you get that crossover being from the state of Ohio. We're talking about Jameis or Russell. No, you get Joe Flacco from us and give us a fifth round pick. Thanks, deuces, bye. I don't mind the trade. I think the more interesting thing that has to do with this trade is, well, let me play this clip from Kevin Stefanski.
Decided if Shedeur is going to be your number two active quarterback for this weekend yet?
Well, first I'd tell you is the Joe trade took us by surprise. That was not something that we saw coming. They called us, and that's it happened very fast and happened not too long ago. So still working through all roster type of things. I always have to be mindful of our players and our players' development, and you know I want to make sure that I'm always doing what's best for our players and, of course, our team. But, with young players, I'm always thinking about last week making the change to Dylan. You have to think long and hard about that because these are young players that you're so invested in their development. So I'll let the week play out and make a decision.
No, I know you're going to give your take on this, but first things first, I just want to throw out there Bruce Arians this week has said, I have no idea how this guy still has his job.
Yeah, he did say that. There were a lot of crazy quotes that came out after we did our media reaction video earlier this week on everything. That Bruce Arians one is the main one, considering it is another former NFL coach that is putting that indictment on Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think about this non-commitment to the second string quarterback? Some people were going he doesn't want to show his cards route, but who cares about showing your cards on a backup quarterback?
It is very clear to me that Kevin Stefanski does not like and has zero plans for Shedeur Sanders. At this point, trade him. I mean, there's a lot of talk that Bailey Zappi, who was re-signed, is going to be the QB2. We're doing this kid no favors. I don't understand the mismanagement here. At first, earlier throughout the season and through camp, I was fine with how they handled it. I thought the media was overreacting a bit, but now it's just gotten to a point where it's a little ridiculous. It seems like it's purposeful to me.
I disagree. I think that they view Shador as a long-term project, someone they don't want to shove out there and put into a bad situation. Whether you believe that is what is going on there or not, but that's what I
I
truly
don't.
believe is going on with the Cleveland Browns right now. We have talked before about how we've fed so many young quarterbacks to the Wolves. Me and you both think Shador Sanders has the ability to be a good quarterback in this league. If they think the
Maybe.
best course of, well, we were talking about drafting him at one point on our show back when the draft was going on. You know what I mean by that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, if we're talking about the best course of action that these people are seeing for him is to let him develop and learn for a year, so be it. We're talking about Eric, we're talking about a fifth round pick, not a first round pick. You're talking about
Nobody thought
it's
he should have been 5th round though, so don't
but
use
that's what
that as
he is.
the
That's what he is. He is
no,
not anything other than that. That's what
it's
the
so
entire
clear
league
though. No, no,
that's
no,
what the
no.
entire league
Listen,
evaluated him as.
no, the entire league had a problem with his personality. It had nothing to do with the on-field talent, in my opinion. And anybody you ask will say the same thing. They were trying to send a message. The Browns then took a flyer. And I think that's true. I think it's because the Sanders family has notoriously been very vocal. His dad, Coach Prime, is a very vocal guy. I think they didn't want that around and they were trying to send a message. It had nothing to do with talent, though, because everybody thought he was going earlier than that based on talent alone. Here's the thing, though. I get what you're saying, but from Shedeur's camp, he seems a little agitated in how he responds. I don't get the sense that he was never Stefanski's guy. Dylan Gabriel clearly was. Shedeur wasn't. And what's the harm at putting him at QB2 now, or just saying like everything Stefanski does is a freaking mystery to me. Because I agree with Arians. I'm not a former NFL coach, but I have no idea how he's kept his job this long.
I don't think that this is an indictment on anything to do with Shedeur Sanders. And by the way, you said he's come off annoyed in the media. Today, he was said he was content with whatever the team chooses. He's ready to help Dylan get right. He's saying the right things. So don't go down that rabbit hole
No, no,
of
no, I'm not putting it on him at all. I'm saying when he talks about being ready, how there are quarterbacks starting in this league that aren't as good as him, et cetera. I think that shows his impatience a little bit with the process. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I wasn't laying that at Shador's feet because I believe in the kid and I think he's done nothing but put one right foot after another as far as media is concerned. His
minus
image.
the minus the miming thing. That one we
It
didn't
was kinda funny. Uh,
love.
but no, no, I like the kid, so it has nothing to do with him. This is purely on the Cleveland Browns and the coaching staff. What's interesting, though, to me is that clearly somebody wanted to draft Shedeur. We all kinda think that that's ownership, right? And if that's the case, then is ownership at odds with coaching now? I don't know.
Neither do I. And this situation gets even more muddy as another trade breaks this week. The Browns are just trading, doing whatever the hell they want. They don't even care that the NFL season's going on, where we trade one Greg Newsome and a seventh round, or not a seventh round, excuse me, a sixth round pick for Tyson Campbell, the cornerback from the Jags, and a seventh round pick. So basically a pick swap and a corner swap there.
Well, on the surface, it was a little odd to me, but the more that I dug and the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. In that, listen, his contract was up after this year, and the likelihood of re-signing him to a team favorable deal was unlikely. He wanted big money, and we've always kind of played him out of position too. That said, we get a guy now that's under control for the next 4 years. Jacksonville has to eat some of that salary and some of that guaranteed money. So
It helps our cap.
yeah, it's a pretty favorable deal in terms of the cap. And as far as how they look, they're very similar graded players if you believe in those advanced metrics. That said, he's looked a little worse after injury down there. Jacksonville fans seem to be glad to be rid of him. But listen, we're talking about a Jim Schwartz defense here. He typically has such a strong front seven or so that he patchworks the secondary and it works based on his scheming. So I think they think that he's also a great fit in Schwartz's scheme, and I tend to agree. I don't think we're missing out much here. What do you think?
No, I don't either. Schwartz came out and said in the media on Thursday about how he doesn't think he was a great fit for their defense and he thinks he'll be a better fit over here. You mentioned they both also grade pretty similarly. You look at Greg Newsome, his highest career graded year thus far was 2023. He had an 80.1 on PFF, and you're talking about 2023 for Campbell with an 80.7. So they are very
Yeah.
similar in terms of talent level questionable in my opinion, and it sounds like your opinion. This trade doesn't bother me. It's almost more so of a wash cat move. Let's move forward. We couldn't get a deal done with Greg Newsome. Like we were trying to get, some money saved and not pay him the money that he thinks he should get.
Yeah.
Um, and decided to flip it so that way they could at least get someone they have control of until 2028 now.
By the way, keep in mind too that, in my opinion, this is somewhere or an area that Andrew Berry has really excelled, and that is predicting the future market in terms of, before D end exploded, you got to deal in with Miles Garrett. Like he's done this several times now, and I think he's on the money once again. Likely they were trying to re-sign him, and he was pushing back and wanted big money, and they weren't having it, which that's great team control. I like what's being done there, honestly.
Yeah, so do I. But there was an interesting quote that came out of practice yesterday, Thursday, of course, that, makes me think a little bit. So let me read this for you. Talking about Tyson Campbell, the new corner that the Browns added in, Jim Schwartz, our defensive coordinator, said he hasn't met Campbell yet and watched film on him after the fact. What do you think about that, Eric?
I don't know because I don't know how acquiring or trading a player works. I think there's probably feedback and buy-in from the head coach, along with front office, especially typically in the case of the Browns. But would you really go to your D coordinator and get an opinion before you made a move like that? I just don't think things work that way, but I don't know either.
This whole situation makes me think. What have we been told about this front office and this coaching staff since day one?
What's that?
That they're a unified front, right? You've heard that
Right?
before?
For sure.
Okay, okay. If you're a unified front, would the Joe Flacco trade surprise you? Would you not watch film on a corner that you're trying to add? I'm not trying to throw a conspiracy theory out there. I don't know
Hmm.
things, I don't have insider info. But Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. We've been Browns fans for a long time now.
For sure. For life.
Our whole life. Yeah, right, right, right. How many times have you seen dysfunction in your life in the NFL?
I can't count that high.
Don't comments like this and don't movement like this feel oh so familiar to some of the stuff that we've seen when, I don't know, a coach is on the hot seat or there might start to be a divide in that renovated building in Berea. Doesn't this all sound somewhat familiar to you?
It does, yeah, and, I've argued that I think Stefanski's seat is very, very warm right now, and it certainly looks like a divide is forming.
I'm not saying Jimmy Haslam sat down and had a conversation with Andrew Berry about, well, you had a great draft this year. You have done a good job acquiring talent for the most part throughout your career. You had some blunders in the draft, but we traded those draft picks. So I'm going to give you some more time. Do what you want. Don't worry about what Kevin wants. I'm not saying it happened, but if Kevin's gone at the end of the year and we start hearing murmurings of this, don't say I didn't tell you so.
I'll say this, I have 2 responses to that. The first is that, I think Andrew Berry's fairly untouchable, as far as ownership's concerned. Obviously, they can make any move they want, but I think they really like Andrew Berry. He's a smart guy, like a really smart, Harvard-educated kinda guy. Uh when it comes to Stefanski, I think the opposite's true. I don't think that Stefanski has as much favor or carries as much favor as Andrew Berry does. I will say that the Flacco trade, I didn't take those remarks the same way you did. I took it as they were surprised because Cincinnati called them and it was an out of the blue situation that developed quickly. Not that he wasn't in on the know of it at all. Um, but you're not wrong. I mean, I think a change is coming sooner than later.
You know what else I'm thinking about? Something just spiked in my mind while we're talking, and you're talking about Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. Don't you remember a clip that was pretty decently viral after the first preseason game? Andrew Berry, Shedeur Sanders hugging, talking, yipping it up on the sideline. You remember that?
I do, yeah.
And weren't you questioning whose choice it was to draft Shedeur Sanders?
I have been. I said it's not Stefanski for sure, and the room looked it too that night.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if Andrew Berry was decently high on Shedeur Sanders. And I wonder if we're seeing, because we took two rookie quarterbacks, the coach's favorite and the GM's favorite, and we're trying to play this pirouette and dance with each other and figure out which one's going to go in. And right now it's Dylan because Kevin Stefanski's calling the plays and doing all the things. Again, I don't know anything. I'm just putting together my observations, but don't say I didn't tell you so.
It feels like they're, letting the leash go long on Kevin so that he can make his own mistakes, and they can justify his termination because I don't know. This is the first time I felt like the Browns, maybe besides Watson, but this is the first time I felt like coaching, uh, general management, and ownership are misaligned. And that's not to say that the alignment has worked out that well, because there's other. I mean, you could point to Johnny Manziel. There's been times, of course, but for the most part, they seem to be lockstep with one another. This is the first time it feels like there's a real rift in the building, and I think the loser of that's gonna be Stefanski.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think this is a good transition to get into the Steelers game now because in history, I'm just going to give you a little reminder here.
You're
What
hot today, I
happens?
love it.
I'm feeling good, dude. I've been thinking about this episode since I woke up and I am ready to rock and roll with the Cleveland Browns. Anyway, going to the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Browns matchup, specifically in Pittsburgh, but
Okay,
broadly as well.
not
Let me
good,
ask
yeah.
you a question.
Sure.
How many coaches have been fired after a Pittsburgh Steelers loss since
Oh,
1999?
that's a good question. You mean directly after the game, or
Yep. Yeah.
I don't think it's too many because we typically wait till the end of the season. I mean, Hugh Jackson went 1 in fucking 60, so I'll say 2.
The answer is six.
6?
Six different coaches since 1999 have been fired after losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now,
No kidding.
I will preface this that you were technically right. Five of them were after a Week 17 loss to the
Okay.
Pittsburgh
Oh,
Steelers.
okay, that makes sense, yep.
Hugh Jackson was fired in Week 8 after a Week 8 loss to the Steelers. But there are six coaches that have been fired after losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and specifically in Pittsburgh is a big part of this. The Browns have a 2-17 record in Pittsburgh since 1999.
Yeah.
I could give you context. I'll give you names. We have Hugh Jackson, we have Mike Penton, we have Rob Chadinsky, we have Pat Shermer, we have Eric Mangini, we have Romeo Cronell. All of those guys have been fired after a Pittsburgh Steelers loss. And we're talking not just like close losses 31-0, 41-9, 24-10, 20-7, 28-12, 33-18. So when you
I
ask me how I feel about this game after what I've seen on in the past and what I've seen in the future and this season and whatnot, the Browns are getting their ass whooped.
I will say this, when you name those coaches, I gotta say I'm really nervous to fire Kevin Stefanski, and that's not in support of him. I think he needs to go, but my God, how many guys did we give a chance to that should never have coached an NFL game? I will say I don't know the legality of this, but the Haslams have deep pockets. Maybe they'll pay that $1 million Belichick out, and you'll see Bill back on the Cleveland sidelines. I don't think that's gonna
I
happen,
don't
but
want that at all. No,
at
thank
this
you.
rate, it's gotta be better than what we have, right?
I am on the Brian Flores train if we
Oh,
do
yeah.
end up moving on from Kevin Stefanski. That was my number one pick for defensive coordinator, I believe, when we had that pop up before Schwartz. And now that will be my number one pick for the head coaching. But we don't need to get into that. We still have plenty of season left and plenty of Browns wins and or losses, more likely losses to get into it.
So getting into Pittsburgh, let me ask you this because before the season started, before camp, I advocated going after one Aaron Rodgers. More in a this clown show can't get any more clowny. So why not? Let's just do it. But he's looked decent for Pittsburgh so far. I mean, he doesn't look bad at all. He's making the throws that we expected people to make, and yet we went after one Joe Flacco instead. Maybe the Kenny Pickett situation had more to do with Flacco becoming the starter than we're willing to admit, but it sure feels like a miss a little bit to not at least, do our due diligence there.
Yeah, I didn't want anything to do with Aaron Rodgers. I still don't to this day, so I'm totally fine that they didn't do their due diligence there. You're
You don't
talking
think we
about,
win
like,
at least one more game with him
I
under center?
it does nothing for me. I mean, you're talking, if you go to the stats, you go yards per game, they're 29th, passing yards per game total, they're 28th. You go into some of the actual breakdowns in the stats, it's the same story that he had his last year at the Jets, where the face value numbers look good, but it's like, they're
But
okay.
he's managing a team, uh, and with a good defense, that's all you need to do. I mean, because that's what we have. But
Well, their defense isn't even great this year.
yeah,
They're
they've
21st for
taken a step
points.
back.
Yeah, 28 on yards allowed. I mean, for turnovers, they're top, but
So let's talk because you said you think the Browns get blown out here, and let's look at the odds real quick. So the Browns are not favored, of course,
no.
but 5.5 points, over unders 38.5. Anytime touchdowns, they look fairly similar. The odds have increased a little bit or decreased for Judy and Njoku. And the first drive touchdown is still at a plus 490. I think it was plus 470 last week.
Yeah.
Punt remains the same. Um, I don't know, man. I see this as a closer game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout.
It will probably be closer. I didn't say blowout. I just said they were going to get their ass whooped because they've lost so much in Pittsburgh, and when there's turmoil, there comes so many more moments that come with it. You could go to the Antonio Brown kicking our punter in the face, the Nick Chubb injury, Cedric Tillman's concussion last year that took him out for the. I mean, there's so many examples of the Cleveland Browns going to Pittsburgh, especially when they're facing adversity and laying the biggest of big goose eggs in the middle of Heinz Field. It's not even that, it's Acrisure Stadium or whatever
Right.
now, right?
Yeah.
And embarrassing ourselves on semi-national TV. So to have confidence in this team, I don't right now, especially after that loss to the Vikings. But that being said, I do think our defense is still, the best, if not one of the best in the NFL. I still think that there is room for plenty of improvement in the offense that can happen very easily if our receivers just catch some damn balls.
Yeah.
And that's just bare minimum things that we could fix to have a better offense. That this game is competitive. I'm down on the Browns right now for all the obvious reasons that most Cleveland fans, most Cleveland talking heads, most Cleveland media members are. But there's always a chance. It's any given Sunday in the NFL.
Yeah, it is any given Sunday. Like I said, I think it'll be close. I expect a bigger game out of Miles Garrett. He was kind of quiet against the Vikings. So I expect to see more from him here in Pittsburgh. But like you said, any given Sunday, would I put money on the Browns to win? No. But I would put money elsewhere. You want to get into our personal bets? Because you are
Yeah,
leading right now.
I am leading. We are tied currently on the legs, just to give a little teaser there. We are winning and losing the same amount of legs, except I've won a parlay, so I'm in the lead. My parlay this week: Judkins, Bucky Irving, James Cook, anytime touchdown. Scramble all that together, 515 odds, $10 wins you $61.57. That's of course with the $10 getting put back into that as well, just so you know.
Right.
These odds are according to Bet365 as of 10/09/25. Tail it with me because I'm a winner, unlike Erik, who has not won a parlay yet this season.
You've won one with $36. I'm not worried. I can still come back. I have Bills with the spread, especially after that tough loss against the Patriots. I think they bounced back in a big way. Stafford with two plus passing touchdowns and then a Judkins anytime touchdown. $10 would win you $59.70. I went a little more conservative route this week, hopefully. I did have a parlay last week that I only missed because of Judkins, so I'm hoping that he makes up for it this week. But we'll see.
We will see indeed. Getting back to the Steelers Browns game though. So we're both low. Do you got any like nagging predictions? I want to ask you this. Do the Browns finally break the 20-point mark? Does it finally happen?
No, like there's been nothing to show us that we would do that. Like literally nothing. I hope we get a little more vertical. I'll say that it was garbage time. Not garbage time. There was 20 seconds left, and Vikings were obviously in a prevent, but Dylan Gabriel threw the ball downfield just fine in those two plays. before the game ended. So I'd like to see them get a little more vertical. But that comes down to our receivers, and I'm just not sure they're up for the task, frankly. I mean, Jerry Jeudy has looked a shell of himself. He is not a wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 right now. And that's a real shame. I expect to see more from the tight ends again. They were favorable targets for Gabriel last week. I think that'll continue. I expect Judkins to have a pretty big game, as is usual for him. I mean, we've talked about it. He's just different. I think that trend will continue. Hopefully that opens up play action, some deep balls. But no, I'm not confident. If anyone says they're confident they're going to score more than 20 points, they haven't been watching for the last 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. I think the main thing, and the only reason you could have a little bit of faith that it finally happens, is looking at the Joe Flacco trade, looking at the state of the quarterback room now. The handcuffs better be off of Dylan Gabriel, because if you're to the point where you're content with trading the only real veteran option you had left in that quarterback room, that means you are confident enough to believe fully in Dylan Gabriel to do whatever he needs to do in our offense. So I need to see the ball downfield more. I need to see more, not just 1, 2, 3, throw it, less conservatism. I want to
Yeah.
be less conservative. We need less conservative play calling in this offense in general. I get the dink and dunk and what a West Coast scheme is, but sometimes you got to let the lid blow off of the thing and try. I want to see us try.
Yeah, and knowing the Browns and Kevin Stefanski, what's likely to happen is that Dylan Gabriel's gonna take a few sacks behind that battered O line. He's gonna say, "F this! Why am I playing in Cleveland and Pittsburgh? I'm going back to Hawaii. I'm done with football." And then we're gonna see not Shedeur Sanders because Kevin hates him. We'll probably see like Corey Bajorquez at QB.
Bailey Zappi, man. You can't diss Bailey Zappi. He's slinging the thing.
But I'm being sarcastic, obviously, but yeah, I have zero faith at this point, and nor should anybody as a Browns fan have any faith in this team. They need to prove themselves, and if this is a prove it game, listen, if we could beat Pittsburgh twice this year, I consider this season a success. Is that going to happen? Absolutely not.
Right. I want to see, there's the idea here, I think, is for Kevin to still have the ability to win his job back. I'm not saying that's what I want to do. I know you're hotter on him than I am, but I think that's what we're
Hotter
doing.
on him being gone.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
I think that the goal is to, you're talking about giving him more and more of the leash and seeing what he does with it. He better go out there. For him to be able to keep his job, we need to see a cleaner game. We need to see less penalties. We need to see more creativity, more deep balls, more not just dink and dunk and hope that we make it to the red zone. We need to see more of this. So if we don't, that's just going to continue to be an indictment on Kevin Stefanski. So I'm hoping we do see more. We do see more of the things we need to see, so we don't have to go on a head coaching search and we can go to. But
Everything you're
I know,
saying, we need fairy dust. I mean, like the
right?
likelihood of any of this coming together. For the record, too, I mean, you have a few goals as coach of the Cleveland Browns. Goal number one is to win games. Goal number two is to make the playoffs. Goal number three is to potentially win playoff games and then go further. Forget even like Super Bowl or anything. They're not doing any of those things.
Yeah.
So to have faith and think that he's all of a sudden going to turn it around and be magical. To be fair, though, a lot of fans, and I dip my toe into it, I've always more been a believer and a backer, but a lot of Ohio State fans felt the same way about Ryan Day. He's clearly turned it around. I just don't know, though, because when you talk college, the talent disparity is the biggest, you know, indicator there of success, and you don't have that with the NFL.
No, you don't. Erik, final predictions on the game.
Browns lose. I'll say they lose 24-10.
That's exact. We're in lockstep. We are
24-10.
We are Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski before the 2025 draft, I guess, if you're going to follow my conspiracy theory and thought process. 24-10. Browns get in the end zone once. Hopefully it's Judkins because we both have
Right.
them in our parlay. And maybe I'll go 14. 24-14, because I want to see Njoku or Fanning get in there again with the check down merchant that Dylan Gabriel is right now because he's handcuffed in Kevin Stefanski's offense. Let's see a nice little 10-yard pop to Njoku and or Fanning in the end zone. So I'll go 14-24 Browns lose, just to not be in lockstep with you, I guess, to be a contrarian.
Okay. Well, we both have the Browns losing. I will say that you've come a long way. And what I mean is that you've fallen so far from your optimism with the Cleveland Browns, because typically, you're a known Cleveland homer, and that's okay. I give you grief about it just because we do a sports show and we should have a little more perspective sometimes. But man, the perspective's here now. Like, you are off the Cleveland hype train in terms of, thinking that they'll do well, and accurately so, but I find it interesting.
Yeah, until I see it, I won't believe it, is where I'm at right now. If Kevin Stefanski goes out there and fixes a lot of the problems that we have pointed out week in and week out, and the Browns look good, and same, even if they lose it by like a walk-off field goal or something, I will be optimistic going into New England. I'll be optimistic going into some of these other games. But knowing the history of the Cleveland Browns versus Steelers, specifically in Pittsburgh, knowing what's going on with this team and some of my thoughts and observations, I would sound delusional speaking into my mic right now if I said the Browns were going to win this game. That's just unfortunately where we're at right now with this NFL season and the Cleveland Browns.
I couldn't say it better myself. And on that note, the debate never ends, but the show does for now. We'll see you next time.